In the early 1880s, a group of Christian families made a great sacrifice that they might set within Burlington Junction a church for future generations. Our congregation was chartered in 1882 with such names on the original charter as Smith, Stitt, Reese, Kreitz, Carpenter, Bollinger, and many more. Since that date in 1882, the First Christian Church of Burlington Junction has been functioning continually with the message of Christ. The first church building was built in 1883 and was located at the corner of 3rd and Caldwell Streets where a home stands today. That building served the congregation until the growth of the community and the growth of membership required the construction of something larger. Construction began on the second church building right across the street in 1910 at 121 North Caldwell Street. And on May 12, 1911, it was dedicated to the glory of God. The second church building, affectionately known as the Old Church, took less than 1 year to build and had a final cost of $11,000. It had a main auditorium that was 44 by 44 feet with an annex room of 23 by 44 feet. This provided seating for nearly 500 people. The basement housed the kitchen, banquet and social rooms, and a pantry. On the upper floors was found a pastor's study, 2 dressing rooms, the baptistry, and the ladies' aid sewing room, which would later be referred to as Wilma's room. The old church was full of tall and unusually but beautifully stained glass windows, and had a tall steeple that soared above the then booming town of Burlington Junction. The old church remained relatively unchanged during its time as a place of worship for First Christian, until the removal of the bell tower many years later due to dry rot and safety issues. Although our forefathers were looking to our future, they did not think that someday that big, beautiful building would become a burden. Many repairs were needed to make the old church safe and accessible to an aging congregation. It was decided that it would be in the best interest of the congregation to build a new house of worship. Funds were raised, and on May 6, 1990, the ground at the present location was dedicated. In July of 1991, at over 15 times the cost of the old church, the present building was completed. The old church served our congregation well from May 12, 1911 to August 4, 1991. When worshipers left its sanctuary for the last time. Many historical artifacts, including the original pulpit, all altar furniture, 1 piano, the organ, choir chairs, 4 pews, and various other items were brought to the new church. All other items, including the pews and most of the stained glass windows, were sold at auction. The old church was sold on November 17, 1991, with the understanding that it would be either used or torn down. Sadly, the old church sat vacant until it was destroyed by fire on May 22, 2004. The first worship service in our current building was held on August 11, 1991, and was dedicated on November 3, 1991. The first funeral was that of member Emeritus Presley Clark on October 29, 1991. Angie Gast, Amity Linville, Nicholas Sherlock, and Lisa Sherlock were the first baptisms on November 10, 1991. The first wedding was of the union of Kim Jones and Joy Hagee on March 21, 1992. 2 stained glass windows were brought from the old church, the large window in the front of the sanctuary and the beehive window in the fellowship hall that came out of Wilma's room. Since the construction of the current church, many improvements have been made in memory of faithful Christians who have called First Christian home. The most notable change was the adding of a vestibule and steeple, creating the finished look of the building you see today. In just the past 2 years, work has begun to put stained glass into our current building. Many memorials have been given, and so far, 11 have been completed. This is just a brief history of our congregation, and does not include the many ministries and the many lives that have been changed because of First Christian. Our prayer is that we continue to light the world with the message of Jesus that our forefathers first preached in Burlington Junction 125 years ago.